Hello, welcome back. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to have a very practice-centered conversation today, and it's in response to a question from one of you, which I very much appreciate. Thank you for asking the question. And before we launch into what it is and talk about it, I really do want to extend the invitation to all of you to please ask questions if you have them. As a guide here, I am very interested in what's coming up for you live. Our spiritual practice throws a lot up, doesn't it? It raises many things to the surface, and questions are, in fact, inevitable. I mean, it is a process of deep self inquiry, after all. So, if you have specific questions, I invite you to type them into the comment thread here on YouTube, and I will get to them. And I'm happy to devote an entire video or more than one video if we need it, just to that subject alone, which brings up also a lot of things for our consideration. So I want to extend that invitation. Thank you for this question. And today's question is directly relevant to each and every one of us because it's something we've all experienced. Definitely, and more than once. The question relates to our hearing the voice of our inner teacher, to hearing the Holy Spirit. And how do we do that? The backdrop is our wish to give over all of our decision making to our inner teacher, which we're invited to do. And, well, how do we hear the voice? It's a great practical question. And again, one that each and every one of us asks at some point on the path. Now, a couple of words of backdrop here for those who may be new to this material. We're invited to do the course, emphasis on the verb to do. That's important. We're invited to do the course under the guidance of our inner teacher, the Holy Spirit. The term inner teacher is one that I frequently use here on this series of videos because it emphasizes a very important point. The operative word is inner. The Holy Spirit is our inner teacher. It is not outside us. There is nothing outside us. There is nothing outside you. The Holy Spirit is not outside you. It is, rather, part of our mind, that part of our mind that knows who and what we are and will help us to see right through all of our illusions because he does and will guide us if only we let him. Now you'll notice the alternation in pronouns, which really just pretty much comes up here. The Holy Spirit is known by the masculine pronouns he and him here in A Course in Miracles. So that comes up on these videos as well. And you'll notice that I'm often referring to the Holy Spirit as it, the gender neutral pronoun it, which is also completely accurate and appropriate because the Holy Spirit is not a human being. The Holy Spirit is not a man. The Holy Spirit is not a woman. It's not human. Rather, it's part of our mind, this part of our mind that knows. Shall we follow it? We're invited to do just that. So, in the study and practice of this course, we're invited to do something that we find incredibly hard to do. We're invited to give over our entire experience to our inner teacher, including our decision making here on this spinning ball of rock. Everything. Give over all situations, all relationships, thoughts, speech, actions. Give over everything without exception to our inner teacher for his guidance. Mm, everything. We find this incredibly difficult. And if you're finding it difficult, well, don't worry about that. That is an experience that we all have. It is. We're all conditioned to think that we're an individual human being with all of the attendant labels, man, woman, our ethnic group, our country of origin, our political orientation, what we've chosen to do for a career, our height, our weight, our shoe size, all of that, all simply artificial labels. We see ourselves as individuals. We see ourselves as cut off and separate from other individuals. There appear to be 8 billion of these things that we call human beings, and counting there are more than that, I'm sure. And there also appear to be multiple other life forms here on this spinning ball of rock. We look out and we see multiplicity, yet that's not what is true. It's illusion. Individuality is illusion. There is only perfect oneness in truth. And somewhere deep down, we all know this to be true. You do, or you would not be here. No one would be interested in spirituality without this recognition, however dim, however faint, that there's more to it than just meeting the needs of this fallible, highly fallible, and impermanent thing. So, what do we do with it? Well, we give it over to our inner teacher. That's what's going on right now. This is a pixelated image on your screen. It's assembled in the guise, if you want, if you want to call it that, in the shape of a middle-aged man from Arizona who's really talking to you is your inner teacher. When something lands for you, when it resonates, it's the Holy Spirit. Make no mistake about that. So we're invited to give over all of our decision making. And we find it incredibly difficult because we're conditioned here in the world to make all decisions by ourselves. We think we're by ourselves because we think we're an individual. The word that the Course uses is an ego. So we think that everyone else is an ego. We think we're all individuals, cut off and separate. And, well, that's what we see when we believe that we're individuals. So, what would you then see if you lifted the veil, so to speak, and saw things as they really are? The truth of our perfect oneness. Well, that's what we're on, what we call the path to do, to lift the veil. It's as though we've thrown a thick veil over our eyes and we cannot see. So we're lifting it. We do so under the guidance of our inner teacher. We're not conditioned to do this, so we resist. All resistance is the ego. Count on that. If you're doubting the truth and veracity of this course, not a problem. If you're doubting the truth and veracity of the pixelated image on your screen, again, that's all right. We all have the power and the freedom to decide right now in the present moment. We have not 8 billion decisions to make, not 15, but one. And there are exactly two options. One is true, the other is illusion. We're invited to choose accordingly. And which you choose is entirely your choice. So we're invited to give over our decision making to our inner teacher, because of ourselves, we've continued to spin. We've continued to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Yes, that's Einstein's definition of insanity, and it is wholly and completely accurate and appropriate to where we appear to find ourselves here in the world. It is directly relevant to the spiritual path, isn't it? Because we look for these solutions out there. There is nothing out there. The solution is in here. It's in our mind. Remember, one of the names of our inner teacher is the answer with a capital A. So, how do we hear? It's a great question. So, the Holy Spirit may or may not speak to you in a language that you understand. You may or may not hear words in a language that you understand. And if you don't, then there are many other ways that the Holy Spirit speaks to us. One of the most common is we simply get a feeling or we get an intuitive hit, something along those lines, where all of a sudden an idea pops into our mind. And we just know it is so resonant that it just is something we can take immediate action on because it resonates and we just know it's true. That's the Holy Spirit. There are many people on the spiritual path who are highly intuitive. So this may be one way, and indeed it may even be the most prevalent way in which our inner teacher communicates to you. Again, not everyone hears spoken words. However, you could hear spoken words from someone else, from some pixelated image on your screen. That's your inner teacher speaking to you. You could read something that all of a sudden just hits. That's your inner teacher. You could see something on the highway, driving down the highway. You could see a sign, a billboard, and the language reminds you of who you really are. Or you could see something with your eyes here in the world, a blooming flower or some beautiful clouds, a gorgeous sunset. I don't know. Anything, in fact, can remind us of who we are. That's your inner teacher speaking to you. You could hear something, a book, a podcast, a video on YouTube like this. There are many, many different ways that our inner teacher speaks to and communicates with us. Our job is simply to allow him to do so. So, to the extent that you find yourself struggling with this, that is a natural part of the path for any student of spirituality. It really is, because we think that we have to go it alone. Well, first of all, we're not alone. Perfect oneness includes everyone. So when we attempt to make decisions on our own in isolation, things just don't go well, do they? And even when they do, that doesn't last. Because when we act supposedly alone, by ourselves, by our little ego selves, we can't guarantee that everything that we say and do will benefit every single living thing to the maximum possible degree throughout space and time, past, future, everyone that's ever lived or ever will. We can't guarantee maximum beneficial impact for every single living thing throughout space and time. Sometimes our decisions blow up immediately. We've all had that experience. And sometimes we may experience a period of calm and tranquility, which eventually gives way to chaos again. So we're invited to allow our inner teacher to decide for us. He will always make the right choice, deciding for God for us instead of the ego, for truth instead of illusion, for love instead of fear, for light instead of dark, for life instead of death, if you want to see it that way. There are many ways to characterize this in words. What do we bring? A willingness. So, in order to hear the voice of our inner teacher, we must first be willing to do so. And you may think, well, I am. And that's good. That's very good. However, in practice, when we're very honest with ourselves, which of course I invite you to be, we recognize all of the ways that we block this communication. We are more resistant than we imagine ourselves to be because we've been conditioned to fear who we really are. We've been conditioned to wall ourselves off against the light. So, what we bring is a willingness to listen, a willingness to hear the voice of our inner teacher. And even if that is only for a fraction of a second, that is enough. That one fraction of a second can later on become a full second of willingness, or it could become more habitual, which is the idea. But you'll never be asked to do more than you can do. And if your inner teacher asks you to do something, know that you can do it. So we bring what A Course in Miracles refers to as a little willingness to the table. Let your inner teacher do the rest. So whatever this may look like for you of asking, of prayer, however that goes for you in your own words, yeah, in your own thoughts, that's the idea is we gradually, if need be, gradually as need be, really open ourselves to guidance. And nobody ever said that this was instantaneous. I mean, yes, it is indeed possible to have a blinding flash of light and be enlightened and perfectly awakened. In the event that that didn't just happen for you, understand that this is a process for most of us and that it takes time. The purpose of time is for us to awaken. That is the purpose of time. Give it over to the Holy Spirit. Give everything over to the Holy Spirit. The communication device, give that over to the Holy Spirit. Your thoughts, your speech, your job, your relationships, everything. What we're invited to do in the Course, again, that we resist, is bring all of our darkness to the light. Opposites are to be brought together, not kept apart. When we attempt to keep them apart, we suffer. When we attempt to keep light and darkness both in our mind, we strain ourselves to the point of breaking apart because light and darkness are completely incompatible. They don't communicate with one another, and we're invited to bring them together because one is real and the other is not. It is like turning on a light in a dark room. What happens to the darkness? It's gone. And furthermore, it's as though it were never there. It was not. There's only light. So we bring the two together. We bring all of our stuff. You can insert another word for stuff. In the English language, it begins with an S as well. We bring all that to the light, and we, in our ego clinging, fear to do this. Yet, the more we look at our stuff, the less we see it. It does not magnify. In the presence of the light, it vanishes as though it were never there. So we're invited to bring everything to the Holy Spirit. He will shine the light on it and will shine it away. Ours is simply to bring it to Him and relax and trust His guidance. Something we find as a practical matter, and depending on the day, extraordinarily difficult to do. Yet, light and darkness cannot coexist. It's impossible that they ever would, because only one is real. The darkness is not real. So we bring them together rather than try to maintain a separation between them. We do not keep them apart. We bring everything. We bring all of our illusions to truth. Truth shines them away. This is how we do it, and it does, as a practical matter, take our willingness to hear the voice of our inner teacher and to follow his guidance. And it takes our complete honesty to bring all of our illusions to truth. Everything that we want to hide and conceal and keep in the darkness, bring it to truth. A practical example, when we talk about true forgiveness here in the Course, that is total, or it's not at all. In other words, we can't forgive and love 99.9% of the individual self-sustaining survival units in the world and reserve our special little disdain and hatred for that other additional percentage. I frequently refer to geopolitics as an example of this, and it's classic. No matter where you may fall on any political spectrum, this is a classic example of the ego at play and people loving on almost everybody except for this select few. Well, that's not forgiveness. It's either total or it's not at all. In other words, we bring all of our darkness to light. And at first, especially, there can be tremendous resistance, fear, resistance, same, fear to bring everything to the light. And in fact, we may even fear our own demise. Our own demise is impossible. This is not you. You are eternal. This is not eternal. It's finite and highly fallible, and it doesn't last. Anything that changes, anything that shifts at all, and people in the spiritual world are in love with the verb to shift. Anything that shifts and transforms is not of God. So, how do we bring about a beneficial shift or transformation? Well, we allow our inner teacher to lead. We, in fact, become the ultimate follower. Now, many would readily and rightly recognize Jesus as a leader, right? He was the ultimate follower. He listened to no other voice but the voice for God. He listened only to the Holy Spirit. We're invited to do the same. By being the ultimate follower, is, in fact, is, present tense, the ultimate leader. And he did so by bringing all illusions to truth. We're invited by him to do as he did. So, my hope is that you've got something that you can take and put into practice here. I really do thank you for the question, and I very much appreciate it because it's so, so practical and it applies to all of us because each and every one of us, myself included, is a student of this course. We're engaged in what appears to be a process of setting the ego aside. So, in order to do it, we relax and trust the guidance of our inner teacher. And it, of course, communicates to us in multiple different ways. And that may be multiple different ways in the course of a single day. You might get intuitive hits here, see something here, see something here, get a feeling somewhere else. There are many ways, and this underscores something that's very, very important in spirituality, no matter what your practice actually looks like. It's the importance of present moment awareness. This is why meditation is a thing. It is. It's why mindfulness practices are a thing in world spirituality right here. Because when we're aware, that's when we can hear. It's extremely difficult to hear the voice of our inner teacher when we're frantic. So we calm the mind to the extent that you can do it. And again, count on the fact that if your inner teacher asks you to do something, if he suggests that you do something, know that you can do that. You can. So we're invited to listen. We're invited to relax and trust. So, an excellent practical question. Thank you again. And I appreciate your tuning in today. Once more, the invitation goes out to everyone that if you have a particular question or a hot topic or something that you just want to get some clarification on, I'm more than happy to help. Feel welcome to leave that in the comment thread, and I will go through all of these. And again, what's coming up for you live is very, very important. Yeah, so you may find that you get some very, very practical insight from asking the question. Now, if you have not yet subscribed, please do that as well. This is the prompt in the corner of your screen. So just click that and join us. It's a growing international community, and I'm happy to have all of you here. Again, questions if you've got them, and I will talk to all of you soon. Thank you.